Hi everyone, it's Amy here from the blog I Think Therefore I Teach. Welcome to your next philosophy instalment. This is for Christian thought and it is from the second year's Gender and Theology. This video is specifically on Rosemary Radford Ruether and I will do a separate video on Mary Daly, maybe even two on Mary Daly because she just does not stop talking. Right. Luckily, Rosemary Radford Ruether is much shorter, much easier, and just has a nicer overall approach. So let's get started. Gender and Theology then. Let's meet Rosemary Radford Ruether. You can just call her Ruether in your exam, that is fine. My class start by looking at this quote from her. God is not a being removed from creation, ruling it from outside in the manner of a patriarchal ruler. God is the source of being that underlies creation and grounds its nature and future potential for continual transformative renewal in a biophilic mutuality. So what I get my students to do is I get them to have a go at putting that into their own words. So what does this mean? I then get them to look up and work out what biophilic mutuality means, why God, according to her, is not like a patriarchal ruler, and then do they think that continual transformative renewal is important for God? So I get them to take the quote apart to have a look and to really get a sense that Ruether is coming at the idea of God at a very different angle from Mary Daly, her counterpart. The maleness of Christ then. Ruether argues that Christianity has become distorted by patriarchal tradition and is in need of a reform. Now, there's an awful lot in that sentence that's extremely important to know for Ruether. The first is that this idea that it's distorted. The original messages that Christianity were promoting has become distorted, and therefore it needs to be reformed, not abandoned like what Daly argues, but reformed, changed, updated, reminded of what it was originally about. What has changed Christianity is the patriarchy, is the male-driven society, male-driven tradition that has distorted the messages coming through from Christianity and Jesus. She believes the Catholic Church's teachings on women's ordination and view on abortion have been influenced and distorted by patriarchy, that it's not the Bible itself, it's not Jesus' teachings itself that have caused these issues within societies, such as the views on abortion, that abortion should not be allowed, but instead the patriarchy, a male-driven society that has wanted to control things like contraception, etc. She also believed patriarchy has shaped Christian thought about God, which too needs to be challenged. So for her, this is not Christianity has then created these views that we have, or Christianity that's influenced the patriarchy to the views we have. No, patriarchy comes first, the male-driven societies come first. This has then infiltrated itself into Christianity to get the views that we have. They're hiding behind the face of Christianity. The patriarchy is hiding behind it, using that as a cover for their own patriarchal vision and their own patriarchal drive. She talks then about the male warrior Messiah. So the Davidic Messiah in the Old Testament, so the Hebrew scriptures, the first 5 books specifically that are followed by Judaism, views the Messiah as God's chosen anointed one. This is all the reasons why Jews do not accept Christ as the coming of God. This Davidic Messiah is the future king of a new kingdom, the son of David, the restorer of Israel as an autonomous power, a free power, deliverer from bondage through battle, conquering warrior, the liberator of people from their enemies. And so look at the words and the language that's used there: a liberator, a conquering warrior, battle, bondage. This is a fighting God, not a fighting God, sorry, a fighting Messiah. This is someone that's going to fight for the people, literally fight. Because of his special relationship with God, God's favour will shine upon these people. So because of the special relationship that God has with the Messiah, anybody that follows the Messiah, God's favour will shine upon them too. The Messiah is both chosen by God, the Son of God, God incarnate, but is also God's representative. It's the representative of his people before God. So it's the Son of Man. He will present man to God. The Messiah can only be imagined as a male. This is in Ruether's book, Sexism and God Talk. So this male God, this screams masculinity, warrior, this idea of God coming in flesh, God incarnate and as God's messenger, and the way that people and man can communicate with God is through this Davidic Messiah. However, Jesus did not fit this bill. Ruether argues that Jesus was not the traditional warrior Messiah that was expected. He's expected to win, not suffer and die on the cross. The future that Jesus brings is not the military victory of the Messiah, of the male Messiah. Jesus was a servant king. He was here to serve his people. Everything about Jesus' teaching was about serving, the washing of the feet. Jesus wanted to wash his disciples' feet to show that he is no bigger or greater than anybody else. He is an equal. He is there to serve his people like his people need to go and serve others. He attended to the poor and the dispossessed rather than the highest in social order. He was critical of the Jewish authorities, the temple authorities. He threw over the tables at the temple, the righteous anger that he showed. He was very, very critical of rulers like Pontius Pilate. There's a lot of nice synoptic links here to Jesus as the political liberator. This is why eventually the rulers put him to death, because he was a political threat. He was threatening not because of the promise of war, but because of how he helped the people that were dispossessed, and they were worried that they would then overturn the people in power. He warned his disciples of lording over others. We are great, we are better than you. No, you are equal. People are freed not through military bravery, but by following the servant king and becoming servants of God. And so Ruether says that by becoming a servant of God, one is freed from bondage of all human masters. This is the idea that through following Jesus, you are freed from the bondage, but not through war and conquering and fighting, but through serving one another. And so this is very, very important. It's very, very interesting. It's about the Jesus that was expected versus the Jesus that we got. And so quite often the Jesus that was expected, this patriarchal ruler and warrior, often still infiltrates the messages that come out, and people forget actually Jesus was not like that at all. The actual Jesus we got was not like this, and he was there about serving people. God as female wisdom. Although Christianity has a male symbol of the Messiah, so Jesus was a male at the end of the day, Ruether argues that the Messiah concept is not the Davidic military Messiah, but a self-sacrificing, redeeming servant Messiah who is linked far more to the female notion of wisdom. Christianity should not bundle the maleness of the historical Jesus and the maleness of the Davidic Messiah into the Christian concept of the Messiah. What that is basically saying is, do not confuse the Jesus we got with the Jesus that was prophesied. Do not dilute and confuse the historical Jesus, the Jesus that we had, the messages and the teachings that we got from Jesus, the Sermon on the Mount, etc., with the Davidic Messiah that was expected. Do not confuse Jesus with what was expected. To do so displaces the female concept of God. So if you do that, Jesus loses that female quality of wisdom. Jesus loses that servant king here to serve and be equal with this conquering warrior that is just nothing but maleness. Sophia, the Greek word for wisdom, was personified in the ancient world in female form. She was a goddess, so wisdom was always female. Ruether argues that early Christians continued to refer to Sophia as divine wisdom. And so this was in scripture. Divine wisdom is referred to in female terms. God is associated with wisdom, and wisdom again is still known as female. So what this means is that God was seen in female terms as well as male. God was seen as wisdom, and wisdom had the connotations of femininity. However, Christianity has merged the notion of divine wisdom into the notion of the messianic king. So basically, we've forgotten this teaching of Jesus as the giver of wisdom, the female notion, for this male conquering warrior. We've lost the femaleness of Jesus because we've now focused more on Jesus as this conquering warrior. And so instead we've lost the original true meaning behind Jesus, that Jesus was both male physically but had many female qualities. In this process, the idea of female wisdom has become obscured behind a patriarchal veil of the male Messiah. We've lost the female wisdom in the Jesus we now remember, but unfortunately, the Jesus we remember is not the real Jesus that we got. Jesus is the incarnation then of wisdom. For Ruether, divine wisdom is closely linked to Jesus Christ, and wisdom is referred to in female terms. The Messiah is not, therefore, simply a male version of God, but is also the incarnation of wisdom, so he's both female and male. Ruether, as an eco-feminist, goes so far as to refer to God as Gaia, the ancient Greek goddess of the earth. Ruether is seeking to recover a full account of human nature and a fuller picture of the divine by balancing male and female in our understanding of human nature and God. She believes this produces a true reflection of Imago Dei, made in the image and likeness of God, image and likeness that is both male and female. I highly recommend you look into Gaia. The Gaia hypothesis, the idea of Gaia, is fascinating. And the Gaia hypothesis is a slight tangent and is something different. It's not really a synoptic link, it's just an area of interest. But it's this idea that, again, these powerful goddesses are female. Gaia was the goddess of the earth. Sophia was the goddess of wisdom. All of these female qualities were very, very clear within the Bible, was very clearly linked to both God and Jesus, and we've lost that, and we need to remind ourselves, according to Ruether, of these female qualities to get more of a balanced interpretation of the Imago Dei idea. Simon Chan, however, challenges Ruether. Chan argues that you cannot rewrite Christianity to give more prominence to women because it is the story itself that shapes Christianity's identity. However, is Ruether really trying to do this? Certainly my interpretation of Ruether is not that she's trying to rewrite Christianity, she's trying to remind us what Christianity was originally, that actually we've rewrote it and we've rewrote it wrong, and that we're now emphasising Jesus in a different way without these female qualities. So is Ruether really trying to rewrite it to give women more prominence, or is she just trying to remind us of what the original message was? And again, you can discuss that in an essay. For example, the phrase Almighty Father, according to Chan, is ingrained within the Catholic Church's Eucharistic prayer, the body and blood of Christ, the giving of the body and blood. This is about the Almighty Father. Chan argues that to rewrite these central prayers to downplay the maleness would be wrong. Again, is she trying to downplay the maleness, or is she just trying to play up the female bit? He recognises that many feminine images are used to describe God: love, protecting, comforting, but God should never be called mother. Again, is she trying to argue this? Is Ruether trying to argue to get rid of Almighty Father? Is she trying to take away God's identity as male? I'm not so sure. She's just trying to remind us that actually God had very prominent female qualities as well, that the patriarchy has brushed under the carpet. This was unique to Christianity, as most ancient religions, according to Chan, had a goddess at their centre. So yes, Christianity was quite unique in that Jesus was male and that there was a male centre of Christianity. You can't have, you can't have Christianity without Christ. Many of these goddess worshipping cultures were also a patriarchy, not equal or a matriarch run by women. Therefore, using female language for God does not make society less patriarchal, and using male language for God does not make it more patriarchal. Devotion of the goddess Kali, in Hinduism, for instance, has never resulted in better treatment of women, why we call God Father. Now, let me explain this. It's very, very interesting. It's a very interesting concept. What Chan is saying here is basically religions that have females at the core, like Hinduism. Hinduism has lots of powerful goddess deities. Look into Hinduism. Hinduism and their gods are absolutely just amazing. I'm fascinated by Hindu gods and goddesses. But what he's arguing there is that many of these world religions that have females at the core are still heavily patriarchal. They're still heavily run by men. It hasn't made society any better. It hasn't made the understanding of the religion any less based on men because there's a female at the core. And so what he's arguing is that if you made Christianity more female, not only is it then losing its essential maleness in that that's what separated it from other religions, it's not going to change the way that the patriarchy is run. It's not going to change the way that we speak about God or females, etc. So again, this all boils down to, though, is Christianity really the problem? Ruether is not arguing that Christianity is the problem. Ruether is arguing that the patriarchy is the problem. So that's why she's not trying to change it into God the mother. She's just trying to remind us that God was both, but it's the patriarchy that's distorted it. It's patriarchy that's rubbed out the female elements. Whereas what Chan is arguing is that Ruether's backing up the wrong tree, that Ruether's basically arguing for something that's not going to make no difference, that changing God into female is somehow going to change it all. I'm not sure Ruether's actually trying to argue that at all. But it is very, very interesting when you do look at a lot of the Hindu deities and how much power they give to females. That has not changed the patriarchy within the caste system within India, for example. But so it's a valid criticism, it's an interesting criticism, but I'm not sure it's right to be used against Ruether. I'm not sure that is what Ruether is trying to do. You do need to be able to compare Ruether and Daly. I think if this question came up in the exam, it's a really mean one because you have so much. I mean, Daly on her own is an absolute minefield. It's ginormous, the amount that she argues. And so trying to then compare Daly and Ruether together is very, very hard. However, you just need to keep it simple. You need to keep the structure simple. You know that you are not going to mention all of Daly, so you just need to keep your points very clear, what you want to talk about, and make sure that you compare. I will do another video at some point of how to actually write a proper comparison answer as well. Daly then was post-Christian theologian. Daly argues that Christianity is irretrievably patriarchal and misogynistic, therefore must be abandoned. It is too ingrained with the patriarchy. There is too ingrained with maleness. Get rid of Christianity. There is no saving it. It is so ingrained with misogyny, and therefore it is completely irretrievable. Examples can be seen in the way that some churches prohibit women to enter on the altar because of unclean during menstruation. I'd like to see them know the difference. To be honest with you, my experiences of churches are not ones that kind of vet you to see whether you are menstruating or not, as to whether you can come to the altar. But again, that's just her argument. Some churches insist on exclusively male priesthood. Again, this is changing now. You can reference certainly the Anglican Church, which now ordains. Male authority figures within the church. Yes, there are a lot of male authority figures within the church. Yes, it is believed that Jesus had only male disciples. This again is questionable with Mary Magdalene. But yes, there is a male core that runs through it. The Pope is always going to be male. And the Pope is the most significant figurehead of the Catholic Church. So yes, there is very much a maleness throughout Christianity. But why is that a bad thing? Why is that a bad thing? It's about tradition. Yes, the teaching should not constrain women, but then they don't always constrain women. A nice synoptic link there, you could talk about that when you do sex ethics, for example, this idea that marriage and monogamy was brought in by the church to protect women from being just left for concubines, mistresses, or by their husbands divorcing them. The marriage was made as a way of protecting women. So there are many things that Jesus, Christianity and the church did to try and help women, not just suffocate them. Ruether, on the other hand, is a reformist. She argues about the male Messiah as well. In comparison, Ruether argues that Christianity is not intrinsically patriarchal, that it can be saved, and she identifies alternatives to the male-centered view. So the divine wisdom is female. Jesus spoke and spent time with women. This was very uncommon in Jesus' time. Men stuck with men, women stuck with women. Jesus hung out with women a lot, hence why Mary Magdalene got such a bad reputation. This reputation was created in order to keep Mary Magdalene separate from Jesus, because he did spend an awful lot of time with her and his own mum. They were the people that took him down from the cross. They were the people that anointed his body. Jesus visited them first when he rose from the dead. Jesus was extremely close to his mum, was extremely close with Mary Magdalene. It is believed by many people, certainly if you look into conspiracies and Da Vinci Code and things like that, that Mary Magdalene was more than just a disciple or more than just his female friend. And again, we will never know this, but this is why over the years there's been rumours that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute, for example. There is nothing that backs this up at all. You could also look into the idea that why are all the books in the Bible all written by men? Maybe it's because the women did write books that were never then put in the Bible. The Bible was edited by men. The Bible was put together by men. Therefore, it was men that decided what would go in the Bible and not. Is it believed that Mary Magdalene or Mother Mary would have wrote books? Yes, it is believed that. Jesus himself, chances are he wrote things down. Maybe the things that Jesus wrote, though, was not quite right for the Bible and how the Bible should be read. Maybe if you had a book in there by a woman, it would change the full meaning. So again, this is not Jesus that is the core of the problem. It's the patriarchy, the male-run society that has orchestrated these things. So hence why it can be saved if that is recognised. Women are amongst Jesus' followers. Women were the first to see him after he rose from the dead. Also, some churches are working back away from the dominant patriarchal ideology. The Church of England, for example, Anglican Church, ordains female priests and bishops. And what we need, she argues, is a spirit Christologies. This idea of change is linking Christian to the spirit, reminding ourselves of the spirit, the Holy Spirit, the spirit of Christianity that is both female and male. Finally, then, I get my students to decide, are they Team Daly or Team Ruether? You'll only be able to do this by watching the Mary Daly videos as well. But should Christianity be changed, Ruether, or should it be abandoned? Who is more convincing? Do you think God can be presented in female terms, or do you agree with Chan that she's trying to change something from what it's not originally meant to have been? Otherwise, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks very much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you do like it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on an instalment. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching, everyone. Bye for now.